first time I ever directed a piece, I didn't pitch it or anything at all, was because it was like this Converse piece up in New York. And Josh wasn't able to go. I think he had like a family emergency. I was like, yeah, Roger should direct it. I was like, bro, what? So I had like, obviously I knew what was going on because we were all on the same team, but that within itself, I think boosted my confidence to then go pitch the other piece to the team, which then boosted my confidence up again to come up with a whole project outline and whole pitch deck for another campaign. So yeah, I think there's these little steps along the way that create a voice not only for myself but for the brand and making it make sense to them.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Creative Gap podcast. Today we're in Philly and I am fortunate enough to speak to another friend of mine, another talented artist, writer, director, photographer, agency owner. He does a ton of different things and he has a ton of amazing work under his belt. I met him, I think, was it 2 years now?
A good minute ago.
Yeah, maybe it's like 2 years. We got coffee one day and just chatted for a long time. And ever since, I really admired his work and we've stayed in touch. So I'm really excited to chat with my friend, Roger Castillo. What's up, brother?
What's up?
Welcome.
How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So first thing usually is just try to get a little background about you. Like, where'd you come from? How'd you find this industry? Like, what is your upbringing?
Yeah, and it's like the question is like how far do you want me to go back, right? Like
as far as you want. Yeah.
So yeah, I was born outside the country. I was born in the Dominican Republic. Came to the States when I was like 6, to Patterson, New Jersey. As like a lot of Dominicans do, they go to Patterson or New York. My family went to Patterson and did elementary school there. Moved to Philly in about middle school, I think like 6th grade or so. And then, yeah, I think Philly's has been like a coming of age story, so I consider it home for sure. Been here up until high school. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And it wasn't until like my senior year where everybody's like, all right, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to go do that. I'm just sitting here like, I don't know what to do, but my parents like really instilled in me that I needed to go to college. Being like an immigrant, it's like their only goal and their only dream is for their kids to like be better than them. So college for them was like the only choice. So college counselor came to the school and was like, yo, like, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? Essentially, right?
It's a big question.
Bro.
Yeah, it's the biggest question.
I'm like 16, 17. I'm like, yo, like, I don't even know what I'm going to do tomorrow. Like, how are you going to ask me what I want to do for the rest of my life? But he asked a question that kind of stuck with me, and he was like, think about what you do every single day, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what do you go home and what do you do? So I started thinking about that, and I was like, well, I go home and watch YouTube videos, watch how movies are made, little Danny Converts action, right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I came into that realization like, all right, well, maybe let me try this film thing out. And then I took initiative and went to this after-school program called Philly Cam. And essentially it was like a program for kids interested in filmmaking and video creating to come in and just learn how to, make videos, create like this narrative story. So I did that, really liked it. I ended up doing like this short documentary on one of my best friends, Nazir, who was like this fine artist. Talked a little bit about his story, got to see what his future goals were, and I threw that together into this little video. He's in premiere for the first time. I thought it was like the GOAT. Like, watching the video back, and now I watch it, I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
But I threw that together, and I ended up getting a scholarship to the school in Vermont called Champlain College. So did film school there, and after graduating, I was like, I'm gonna move to New York. Pandemic was like, maybe you shouldn't. So I came back to Philly and just started freelancing a lot. I think that's led me to, I guess, where I am now. Just like grinding it out, Right.
I want to kind of go back a little bit to like your family a little bit, like coming in as an immigrant, coming to the United States. Yeah. What do you think, like your parents, like what kind of virtues do you think your parents have instilled in you? Because my fiance, her dad came from Italy, and he has a certain work ethic. He has a certain mindset. And similarly, it's like college. And when you decided to pursue film and, a path that really isn't super traditional. Like how did they feel about it? And how did you kind of prove to them that this is something that I want to pursue?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Because, you never want to disappoint your parents. It's like the worst thing you can do, right? And yeah, out of nowhere, one day I was like, yo, filmmaking. They were like, what the hell are you doing? So I don't think they ever blatantly were like, nah, don't do that, But I think to them, and more so my father, I had to prove to him that, this is what I wanted to do. I just remember this conversation I had with him, and he was like, yo, like be honest with me. Like, you could go to school, be a lawyer, be a doctor, be, any of those typical paths, your immigrant parent wants you to go on. I was like, no, like, to the point where I got like tears in my eyes, like, yo, like, this is what I'm going to school for. Like, this is really what I want to do. This is what I'm passionate about. And I don't know if that at that point was like a big bluff I put on myself, like, like faking it till you made it in that way. But
I think there is something important to that, though. I think there is something like mentally that you have to kind of trick yourself to think like, oh, I am going to make it. Like,
I tricked myself, all right. Like it was a big thing for me, and whether I was lying or it was like my future self, like telling me like, this is what's gonna work out for you. I just, just straight up told him like, this is it, and you gotta accept that. I think at that point it was like one of those turning points in my relationship with my father, where he started like looking at me as like my own man and moving on. And sort of like passing that torch on to me as like as my own man. So yeah, I think I had that conversation with him, and I just told him like, yo, this is it. Like, this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna stick with this, through its hardships and through the glory. So yeah, he sort of just accepted that and it's been full support ever since. So, but to him, it was just sort of like I needed to prove it to him that I cared about this thing, and I just wasn't doing it just to do it.
Right. I had a similar experience with my mom, actually. I went to college because she wanted me to, but I was pursuing music, so it still wasn't like the most traditional path, but she wanted me to go to school for it. And when I dropped out, I don't think she talked to me legitimately for like 3 months. Like, it was a really hard point in my life with her. And when I wanted to pursue this as well, it was the same exact thing. It was why pursue? You're just going to do something else and then quit, type of thing. And for me, I think it's really important that if you want to pursue something on your own that's different than what's normal, that your parents they're not always going to be like 100% on board in the beginning, but providing that you can prove what you're capable of, and it might take a long time, but I think that really shows them that you're like an independent person, and that you're going to become like your own man and passion. I think that's really important.
Well, 100%. Yeah. I mean, because up until that point, well, I'm not sure how it was for you, but up until that point, it was like I was kind of like into a bunch of different stuff, and I never really stuck with one thing wholeheartedly. And then, I think after just showing him that, that that's what I wanted to do, then he was like, all right. And, I hope you have like, I don't know what your relationship with your mother is now, but I hope.
I have a amazing relationship, better than like I've ever had before.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Like you got to like kind of separate yourself a bit, then come back. And
I also think it was like me moving out too, and like moving out of my mom's house, because when I lived at home, I felt like maybe I don't know if I fought more, but like it was just a constant, I don't want to say a constant presence, but just being around her so much. I think as I was trying to pursue that thing that she was so against for a little bit, caused a lot of friction. Yeah. But once I moved out and created that separation, and started to really focus on my passion, and without, that energy, it made me be able to come home to a new mom or a new relationship.
Yeah. Did you find that it was like a deeper sense of like appreciation for one another?
Yes.
Yeah.
I also understood where she was coming from.
Bro, like, I don't know what it was, but there was some point in like my college experience that I was like, damn, like my parents are just people, like they're just human beings with their own problems and like their own obstacles, Right. And I was just like so young and like naive to that, you hold your parents to like this high regard, and then you get this sudden realization like, oh, like, we're all figuring it out at the same time. So I think moving out helped me with that as well. I went to school in Vermont, and then I was away from them for a while, and the relationship just got healthier. Because I think when you're young, you often blame, or at least I did. I blame my parents for like a couple of different things. It's just like this, but it's just like the circumstances. You know what I mean? And then you get older and you realize it's not. It's really not nobody's fault. It's just like the cards you were sort of dealt.
Yeah. I realized something really similar too, that you look at your parents like they can't make mistakes in life, or that they're this like superhuman. I think it just has to do with maturity. Once you get to the certain age that you realize that they are a human being that has issues, that has problems, they're dealing with their own thing that you have never known about for 18 years. They hid so much from you. I think you gain a new appreciation for them, and you understand where they're coming from when they just want to make sure that their child is going to succeed in life. And doing this art, photography, film, it's scary. It's not easy.
It's scary for me now, Yeah. So like, imagine what they were feeling, right? With something that's sort of foreign to them, and something I guess that's come second nature to us now. If I'm still scared, imagine what they would have felt like if they had no realization or like no preconceived like notion of what filmmaking or art was. So yeah, I can only imagine, and I don't blame them for caring, because that's all it was.
Absolutely,
they just really cared about our future and like us succeeding in life. So can't blame them for that.
And so you graduated from college, you came back to Philly, and you started to freelance a little bit. What was the journey like from freelancing? Because I also know that you work with Snipes.
Yeah.
So like, how did you kind of navigate that, going from freelance to working with the company?
So it was tough after college, it being the pandemic and all, having to, figure out what projects were out there, and taking anything at that point. It wasn't until I think early 2021 that I reached out to Josh Medina, if you're familiar with his work. He worked at Snipes, and he put up on Instagram, he's like, yo, like, I'm looking for models to be on the shoot in Philly this date or whatever. I was just hungry at that point, I was hitting everybody. I hit you up at that point too. So it was like, I was hitting everybody up and just trying to like create like my own like sort of community, and like try to like force my way in the industry at some point. So I hit him up, and I was like, yo, like, I know you need models. Like, I'll model if you need me to. I'll be on a PA. I'll work for free. Like, just let me be on set. He was like, yeah, like, I actually think we do need a PA that day. So come through, give me the address, and I worked my butt off as a PA. There was 2 other PAs there, no shade at all, but like they were just kind of moping around.
Yeah, you were the top dog.
I was lifting boxes. I created, I forgot what they're called, but like the glass frames, the plexiglass that you stand on to shoot from below. Mm-hmm. Bro, it was me and this grip, just like 3 flights of stairs, bro, so heavy. Like my arms were like numb after I carried it, but I think I showed sort of my value there as like somebody who wanted to be in the industry. And I think he sort of took notice of that and kind of brought me on for other projects. And then out of nowhere, he hit me up and was like, yo, there's a position opening at Snipes. You should apply for it. I'll put in a good word for you. And I did just that, and I interviewed, and I got in there, and sort of been working my way up from the position I got in the first place.
Yeah, man. I remember PAing for so long, but I knew that I had to be the person that people would remember as like the hardest worker on set. That I think, even me, like where I am now as a DP, I notice people like the PAs and stuff that work really hard. They put their head down, they grind, they are, they're willing to ask questions, they're curious, and they want to learn and grow. Those are the people that I think are going to really succeed. And I think it only shows to where you are today because of how hungry you were. And like, what do you think? Because there's a lot of PAs that aren't like that, and that are okay with just doing the minimum. Why were you so hungry? And like, what made you be like, oh, I need to prove myself like to the maximum?
I think 2 reasons. One big reason is my parents. Us, like, as a son, you kind of want to make your parents proud. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier about how you start to realize what your parents have gone through. Mm. And bro, like they worked their butt off once they got here, you know, like my mom was, like she had like a degree and worked like a good corporate job. My dad had his own business. It was blooming. But they just gave that up for, you know, their children. It was sort of like, I needed to do it for them to like, yo, I need to work hard and reach what I want to do so their sacrifices don't go in vain. I think that's a big reason. Another one is for myself. I had to prove it to myself. Like, yo, like I just grinded 4 years of college, working through that, like working 3 to 4 jobs while in school and working my butt off after I graduated, proving to myself that, you know, I could do it. So I just thought, I don't know what it is, but I think ever since I was little, there's been like this faith in me that it's not like I'm gonna make it somewhere, you know? So I think just feeding into that as much as possible. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, my parents and, you know, not letting myself down in the long run, for sure.
And after that shoot, you know, you started building a great relationship with...
But not to cut you off, because I was curious. I was going to ask you, like, because you work hard as well. So, like, where does that stem from you?
I think for me, it starts with my background in soccer, I think. I played at a really high level in soccer my whole life. I don't know if you're familiar with the New York Red Bulls, the MLS team, but I played for their youth team when I was 13 I started with them when I was like 10, but then I graduated with them. I think I was about 15 or 16. I stopped playing for the Red Bulls youth team. And for most of my middle school and part of my high school, I was traveling the country just nonstop. I had no social life. That instilled so much hard work in me, and it just knew that like if I wanted to be good at something, this is what it takes. Yeah. And it's a lot of sacrifice. And from there, I moved on to different avenues. I pursued music, and once I kind of found film, I've done so many other things. I had a clothing company prior to that. I was a landscaper. I was DJing. I tried so many different things that ultimately ended up not working, but they all, I feel, created like a little bit of a path for me to where I am now. And when I landed at film, it was a feeling, especially DPing, it was a feeling unlike I've ever felt before in anything that I've ever done. I knew immediately that this was it. And I knew that I didn't have a college degree. I have a high school diploma. I have no backup plan. And I always say to myself, and I've said this to other people, my plan A is my plan B through Z. So I have no backup. I have no choice but to succeed. So whatever it takes is what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I relate to that so much. Yeah. There's never been a plan B, you know? And people, you know, try to force that on you. Mm-hmm. Like, well, what if you... It's like
I don't want to what if. Yeah, there is no what if. I'm going to do it. Yeah. I think you have to have that mentality, though. Yeah. And it comes with sacrifice, though, having that mentality, because you turn down a lot of things. Even now, I don't really have a social life too much. I try to a little bit more now because I want to have a life. Yeah. But at the same time, though, you need to know when to work, when to relax a little bit. But the mentality of, I'm going to succeed regardless comes with a lot of sacrifice.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
But what I was going to ask prior was, as you're building your relationship with Josh, is Joshua or Josh? Does it matter?
Josh. Yeah.
Because I also follow his work too, and he does amazing work. Yeah, he's awesome. How important do you think he specifically was as like a mentor figure for you in your growth and like building you up within the Snipes, community?
I mean,
you could talk about mentors in general too, because I think that's really important.
I think I'm trying to figure out how to put this. I think there's been a lot of figures in my life that have sort of propelled me forward. And I don't think I'll be where I am now if it wasn't for those people. And not even just like those key figures, but also like, you know, the homies and, you know, people sort of like cheering you on as you embark on your journey and throughout all the obstacles you may that comes with it. But I think there's been a long list of people who I could like pinpoint, like, yo, like if it wasn't for this person, I would have never made it to this level. If it wasn't for this person, I would have never made it to this level. And look at Josh as one of those people, like for him to see something in me and be like, yo, I think you got something. And even on my first day at PA, I was speaking to him like, yo, like, I want to direct this and that. And like out of nowhere, in the middle of a scene, like he was directing, so yeah, go out there and like go direct these models. It's like, bro, like I don't want to step on your toes. Like I don't. He's like, nah, you're fine. Trust. Like go ahead and do that. So I don't know. I think he has like this sort of like, if he like, can you curse on?
Yeah, you're good.
I feel like if he fucks with you, then I think he's like a great person to have on your corner, because if he fucks with you, he really fucks with you. And I think it's been like that since I've got the position at Snipes, and yeah, he just helped me forward, and honestly now has become like a good homie. It's not always just work. So yeah, shout out to him and everybody who I have there at Snipes now.
Amazing. Yeah. What is the work life like at Snipes, or just because it's different than freelancing when you're working with a company? Yeah. Like, what is that like? And when you first started, what were some of the challenges that you faced working for a company?
So when I first started, I started as a media production coordinator, and what that was basically like a PA on steroids. Like they had to be doing everything, bro. Like I was like invoicing for them. I was like running around picking up apparel from stores, picking up footwear from stores, going into the warehouse, picking up stuff, like a bunch of running around, going up to New York, help out on set as much as possible, help out with like a lot of paperwork. Like I was just doing a bunch of like busy work, I would say. Not that it wasn't important, but it was just like work that I didn't.
It was the first step.
Yeah, it was the first step. And I think when I got into the company, I kind of already had like my mindset on, this is the type of stuff that I want to be doing. Let me work as hard as possible to try to get my foot in the door and have them trust me with like a project or in here and there. And it helps when you have like people on your corner, like a Josh or my boss now, like David, who's the creative director there, like trusting you and like your vision into to sort of propel you forward, like as I was saying earlier. But sorry, I got lost in the question.
No, it's good. It's just about like trying to figure out how to work within a company as like a creative and your growth within it.
It's kind of different, right? So it's like if you're an artist, like you're signed to like a label. Like I'll say, like it's not more like I'm signed to somebody who represents me. It's more so like this is Snipes, and I try to put in as much of Roger into the projects that we work on, right? But it's different, right? You're creating stuff for a brand, so it's like they have these key things that you have to like fit into the piece. We're selling product at the end of the day, so you gotta get the product in there, and it's not always so much so about the story and whatnot. But yeah, it just goes into like trying to put in as much of myself into the work that we do. I'm blessed because we have been able to do a lot of like cool things, right?
Yeah. Your guys' projects are really badass.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it just comes with like the team we have there. Like everybody there is like super dope. I don't think I could have asked for a better corporate situation than the one I'm in now. The whole team is like super fire, super dope to work with, and they're all like, I think, creatively gifted in a way to sort of like, all right, well, we have this shoe. Let's make it about a kid's like upbringing and like how the shoes made it better for him. Like, like it's a bunch
Seems
of
like there's a lot of like not just creatives, but like storytellers in there that's what you're really pushing.
Yeah, I think that's the root of it, right? Like I think all of our backgrounds come from similar but very different backgrounds. So I think, I think we're all kind of aligned. Like we're all on the same wavelength, I would say. Though we do come from like different but similar backgrounds, we try to push as much stuff out that's like that has meaning and depth to it, right? I rarely ever want to shoot just a model with clothes, like what's the story behind it? Like just find somebody to help push this. Like, say if it's a tee, like instead of just hiring a model out, which is cool, right? Let's bring in somebody from like the neighborhood, have their story be told, figure out what's important to them in the community and stuff like that. So building a larger story, I think, around a product is, I think, essential to make it, hit the streets a little bit different, I think.
Do you remember the first time you pitched a project as a director for Snipes? Like what that first project was, and were you nervous doing that?
I think since the start, I've been having been throwing like little ideas here and there. I would sit like across the room. I'm like, well, maybe we should do this. You know what I mean? Like just sneaking my ideas in there as much as possible. I think my full on project that I pitched was this quarterly campaign that we do. And it was based around like the 4 elements of hip hop, centered around like 4 kids, trying to create this party in New York, and like having like graffiti, DJing, breakdancing, all in one thing. And it was like so like untraditional, right? So like we all went to, I think, brunch one day. We were working out, I think, from Atlanta, doing this other piece, and most of the creative team was there. I was like, yo, listen to this, right? And I don't know like what came over me where I felt so confident like telling them like my idea for this big campaign that we did. But they're just like, yeah, like that's cool, let's do that. And I think having those people around you where it's like, yo, yeah, like
that support is amazing,
bro. It's different. Like it's like if you don't have that support, I think you don't ever grow. And that's why I always like thank those that support me through the journey that I'm on. But yeah, I think that was the sort of impromptu, like not unofficial way of like unofficial first pitch of like my idea. And then Josh and I went on to co-direct it. I was playing the sort of back fiddle on that a bit, but yeah, I think that first thing was like, all right, they took that and they did it, and it made it happen.
That had to boost your confidence, bro, that they trusted you like that.
let me start thinking of other ways to other stories to tell. And then I think the full other project that we did was about like this breakdancing battle that we had to do for like this promotion for this dance competition that we were doing. I think that was like my first set, if I'm not mistaken. Oh wait, actually, that's not true at all. I think my first time I ever directed a piece, I didn't pitch it or anything at all, was because it was like this Converse piece up in New York. And Josh wasn't able to go. I think he had like a family emergency. He was like, yeah, Roger should direct it.
Oh, wow.
I was like, bro, what? So I had like, obviously I knew what was going on because we were all on the same team, but I was not expecting to direct the piece. And yeah, I think that within itself, I think boosted my confidence to then go pitch the other piece to the team out of nowhere, which then boosted my confidence up again to come up with a whole project outline and the whole pitch deck for another campaign. Amazing. So yeah, I think there's these little steps along the way that that have helped me like sort of create a voice and create a voice not only for myself but for the brand and making it make sense to them.
Right, and I think it's only possible that you could feel that you are starting to grow your voice because of the people that are surrounding you and empowering you to like feel confident to do that. And when you were directing for that first time or one of your first bigger projects, what did you notice about yourself that, maybe you could have improved upon as a director, which I think is interesting. Like as where you are now, like how do you think your voice has changed as a director? How do you think you've grown from like some of your first projects?
I think I'm much more punctual. I'm not so undecisive as I used to be. I think I've understood that you need to make decisions sort of on the fly. And I think that comes down to like understanding the treatment and understanding like the material. So I think I've learned to study why I'm doing things a little bit more. And then so on set, I'm able to sort of be a little bit more punctual on certain decisions that, need to happen. Yeah. I think that thing. Also, like communication was like a big thing for me. As you know, like I'm not the biggest talker. Like even just doing this is kind of crazy. So like I'm more of like a listener. And I think as a director, you need to be able to communicate. Like, this is the whole job, right? So being able to sort of communicate my vision to others, and then on top of that, get everybody on board is like essential, right? So I think that's something that I've been working on every time I'm on set and even off, like, try to learn as much as possible to be able to communicate my vision to others. I think has been like my biggest thing, because I often notice that, all right, well, this person really isn't understanding me. Like on my first couple of jobs, like, why isn't this person understanding me? Am I talking too fast? Or
in terms of like crew or talent, like
both. Yeah. So it's like, very early I understood, like, all right, how can I, like, how can I get what I'm seeing in my head out to another person? And that within itself is like extremely hard. So I kind of like noticed like little fine new details. Like, all right, I was talking too fast in this moment, or I was like slurring my words, or I'm just not being descriptive enough. Like, it was just like I learned to communicate much more as time went on. Yeah, and I think that's still something that I like. You can always be a better communicator. As a director, being able to make decisions faster and quicker, to get everybody on board, and being content with the project.
When you're directing talent, I think that's being a director is one of the biggest jobs is like being a leader as a director, and like you're guiding this entire ship. But one major specific job is like the directing of talent and talking to them and trying to get them to, act the way you want, look the way you want. How do you think your communication changes between like maybe the talent and crew? And like, how have you learned how to communicate better with talent specifically? Because that's something that I don't know if I'd be very good at. And I think that's the reason why I DP and I love it, is because I don't know if I have the skill to talk to talent like that specifically.
I think for me is sort of meeting people where they're at, find out what they're struggling with and try to help them through that specific thing. But I think in my line of work now is more so like working with models and working with sort of like non-actors, right? Which is cool. Like, a lot of the work that I've done, like even the narrative work, like the short films and stuff, was with non-actors. So it's not that not that I am worried because of that, but it's just sort of like meeting everybody with where they're at the end of the day. Yeah, I think that's really the gist of it. Like, if I find that somebody's struggling with a specific moment or scene, or did something that I think could be done a better way, just, well, let's try that again, and then giving them the freedom to explore, like try to like 50 different times, to see like what works better for you, and then coming in and tweaking it a bit, like, yo, that was cool, that moment was cool, but what if we try it like this, I just think, yeah, that's where I'm at. And I'm also not so like I'm not hammering stuff in, like I like to explore on set as much as possible, as much as like time, for as much time as I have. Yeah.
I think it's like similar to, the crew that you have at Snipes, allowing you and giving you the freedom to explore your creativity and your voice. I think it's important for you to, as a director, to also like kind of provide that on set as well for crew and talent.
Yeah.
Do you think that as a director, it's like, let me try to figure out the best way to ask this. Because I think there is a level of leadership. There's like a few different ways to lead. And I feel like there's one way where you're very specific on what you want. Another way where you are specific, but you allow for, a lot of spontaneity. Where do you kind of like fit in there? And like, how do you see your leadership evolving as you're directing?
That's a good question. I think
it took me a minute to get there.
Yeah, it's a great question though. It's hard to answer now. I think that for me, now it's hard. Yeah, it's a hard question to answer. I think I kind of, I don't know if pick and choose is the right word, but I need to pick and choose when I need to be direct and pick and choose when I need to be, more free and more open to, the actors doing or whoever I'm working with to do what needs to be done.
Yeah, it's definitely not an easy question to be,
because it's hard.
asked.
Like every set that I've been on, I walked away from the set thinking I need to do these things better,
Right.
and I need to work on these things within myself to then, so I think directors are like, well, I don't know for other directors, but I'm like mad, like sensitive, like after the fact, like, yo, like fuck, like I was a dick at this point, you know what I mean? Like, and I kind of just need to be a little bit more confident in communicating and explaining why the reason why I'm saying this, holds weight. So I think it's just been like a learning lesson ever since, like my first job to my second job. Like I'm learning every step of the way, right? Yeah. And I don't have it all figured out. I think sometimes a little bit hard on myself on like, yo, you should have been this way on set, or you should have been this other way on set. And it's hard, I think, for me to pinpoint where I am in that spectrum that you speak of. I think because I'm not all the way there yet. You know what I mean? Right. I think every situation also needs a different type of directing, direction. Everybody doesn't, respond to.
I think your sensitivity as a director is what informs like you on any particular set. Because of like your sensitivity, you understand, like for the talent or the talent's perspective, if they need maybe more guidance in a certain way, you could be sensitive to that and direct them in a certain way. But if another person is like, oh, I need you to actually like tell me more straight up what I need to do, that's your way of communicating then. Yeah. So I guess the sensitivity of a director is really about being fluid in your decision making and how you communicate.
You just put that so nicely.
Thank you.
That's exactly what I meant to say. But yeah, I think every situation is different. Everybody's different, and I think you can't speak to everybody. I think it's sort of like every set you walk in, you have a different relationship with every person out there, right? You can't speak to everybody the same. You can't. It's like a relationship, right? You get into a relationship, and then you have conversation with your partner, like, how do you want to be loved? Which is like sort of the same way for me. It's like, how do you want to be directed, right? Not that I blatantly asked that question, but then through conversation and through working things out, you kind of figure it out in that way. How can we help each other make this relationship work, and then ultimately lead to a great project?
Amazing. Yeah. Wow. And yeah, I think that was a great answer.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
For you though, because see, I'm not. You're not about to keep asking. For you though, like how does that work, right? With your crew, and then relating issues you have from like your crew to a director, or then working through issues with like your own crew.
I think it's pretty similar, to be honest. I think the director and DP, they have very particular jobs on set, and they both hold like the most leadership, really, kind of on set, and you're like the two really big kind of decision makers. I think I've grown, and in the beginning when I was DPing, I think my communication lacked because of my lack of confidence in myself. And I felt like I needed to do everything. I felt like I needed to be extremely precise on things. I needed to, this specific fixture at this place with this. It just needed to feel like I was in 100% control, because I think it was due to my insecurity and that I wasn't there yet, but I had to prove that I knew what I was doing to people. But as I've grown over the past couple of years, and I've started to build the confidence within me that I know what I'm capable of, I think it unlocked a level of like compassion and freedom to allow people to do their jobs to the best of their abilities and feel also creative within their given job. Because this is a creative job, but it's also a laborious job too for the crew. They're doing labor. It's a hard job, but that job becomes easier and a lot more enjoyable when you add an extra layer of oh, what do you want to do for this? Or like, what do you think would work for this, instead of, can you just do this? So like adding the layer of creativity, I think, helped me communicate with my crew better, especially when there's problems. It's less like, oh, this is how to fix it. Instead, it's more like, how can we work through this? And what are you thinking that this could be the solution? What do you think this could be the solution? And like, I think just thinking of everyone as like a team, and regardless of if a PA, you know, a swing, grip, key grip, gaffer, AC, I think everyone's opinion matters and holds the same weight. It really does. Because when you first gave that pitch to that first commercial, at that point, were you a PA still? Yeah, but you created an amazing idea. And if they didn't see you as someone that like has value, that idea, that project would have never came out. Same thing on set. If I don't give someone the opportunity to present an idea or a solution, it might be the best thing for the project. Yeah. So I think for me, it was finding the confidence within myself to allow for more creativity with people and allow for people to have their own voice on set.
100%. I kind of want to touch on what you just spoke about, because that's how I kind of like to run my sets. Mm-hmm. I like for it to be a fun and collaborative spot. I think working with people you trust, right? I would assume you bring people on who you've worked with in the past, who you trust, right? So not only do you trust them in your job, you know, their opinions matter also, right? If I'm hiring a DP, it's because I trust the DP, right, to do the work that they need to do. I was just speaking to another DP about this. It's like, yo, when we hire, I like to hire the homies, right? I like working with people I fuck with. So
I think that's great, and I think that's really important to do that.
Bro, it's like, for you, like when I hit you up the first time, I was like, yo, like I see Carla as somebody who I can grow with, right? Like we're kind of like in this journey, like we're both embarking on this journey to of filmmaking and making it out. So it's like, I think that was the initial point where I was like, yo, let me start reaching out to people and sort of fostering this community. And then happened to be on set one time, and then us meeting, you know, I think I like to do that pretty frequently, right? Where I like to meet people before, you know, I work with them, right? And then I think after that first meeting, you kind of like the vibe was off, and maybe I don't want to work with this person right away. Let's have the relationship build off. Right. Like let's do more things before we can work together. I think something unique about when we first met was like, yo, this guy's fucking dope. Like let's lock something in like right away. I
think you did. I think we did at the end of that meeting. I think we booked something at the end of the
Yes, we booked something at the end of the meeting. I think that's dope when stuff like that can happen. Like when you can relate to somebody, and you know, we talked about a lot that day. So it's like, yo, like I relate to this dude, like super cool. And not only that, but the work backs it up, right? So like if I see somebody putting in the work who's also cool, who's like somebody I want to be friends with, I think that's a easy yes for me for them to, you know, come on a project that I'm on. I don't know what we were talking about to get to that point, but I said that to say that the people who you bring on set is very key to the success of the project, because their opinions matter, like you said. Like I may not always, as a director, quite frankly, I may not always have the answers. It's like, damn, like you think we should put that like there, like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's why you hire people who know what they're talking about. And you know, we can have that rapport and back and forth. Like, yo, I think actually for this scene it makes more sense to do this. I'm like, yo, you're right. And I think that's something that I've learned early on, that I may not always be in the right. And this thing that we're creating and that we're making is much bigger than me. Like I'm not gonna let my ego get in the way of the success of a project. And yeah, like give everybody their graces, you know.
I think it also is like showing your vulnerabilities in a way. And I say that like if you're like closed off of a person, especially a director or DP, when you're working with a bunch of people, if you're closed off emotionally, you're not open to people. Like when you're directing and someone has an opinion, or you don't let like what you just said before. Oh, I think we should do it this way. Oh, I think you're right. I think that shows a level of like honesty within yourself. And do you feel that you show some vulnerability as a director when you don't know what you're doing or what you're talking about? And do you think that helps the project? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I
definitely could have phrased it better, but I just want to harp on like being open as a person and speaking to some of your vulnerabilities, and not allowing people to feel open to talk to you about things.
Yeah, I like to think that I'm not that closed off on set. I hope that even like I don't know, the DP, the grip, or like a PA can come up and talk to me. I don't ever want to feel like I'm standoffish to anybody, you know. I think there's a time and a place for everything, right? If there's struggling, and like if something's happening on set and a PA has a solution to make it happen, bro, please, like please come up and you know and talk to me, you know, or talk to whoever, you know, can fix the situation. Yeah, I just don't like running. I try not to have like that ego where, you know, people can't come up and talk to me in that way. And it's just not in my character, I think, to have that happen. So I can't, it's hard for me to put up a front, I walk around like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just super hard for me to be, to fake it, you know?
Yeah. From what I like, because I know you're a very grounded person, and you're humble. And I think, you know, with the work that you've done you know, you've done some pretty high level stuff, and there could be a level of like some overconfidence for some people, like, oh, I created this amazing piece. But I feel like you have a level of groundness and humbleness. Do you think that comes from how you were raised and like your upbringing?
100%. I think that's a lot to do with it. So my parents, like, we come from what people in DR would call like El Campo, which is basically like the sticks. Not even the sticks, because it's not really like that, but just like not the city, right? So
like a rural type.
Yeah, like almost like not the capital, right? So It's like much more, like you said, like much more rural areas. But yeah, I think that's just like sort of like the environment that I was raised in, like, or at least what my parents instilled in me. Like, you never want to walk around like your shit don't stink, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know. I think my parents did a good job in that, but I think the back end of that is like this this big sense of like imposter syndrome, like. But I don't think me being the way I am stops me from
pursuing.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I don't know. It's rough. I think a big reason why I am the way I'm is to my parents, but I think there's stuff within me that I need to change as well.
What are some things that you think you'd like to improve about yourself? Now we're getting deep.
Bro. I think I need to gain more self-confidence, right? Like, if somebody may look at me and may look at the work and like, yo, this guy's got it figured out. When it's like, yo, like, I've done cool stuff, but I think deep down inside, there's a sense of like, yo, like, what? Like, you know, like, I'm just like juggling like in the air, and like at some point somebody's gonna tip me and like all the balls are gonna fall. So to me, I think it's understanding that I'm an alright juggler, right? Like, a ball, so what if a ball falls? Like, I think there's a sense of like me having to be perfect, you know? I think I just need to get rid of that to an extent. Like, it's okay if I mess up. I'm pretty hard on myself, and I think a lot of the homies will say like, yo, you gotta ease up on yourself. But it's just something that I think I need to improve on and need to learn, and I think need to just continue to build more confidence. And yeah, I think that's it.
I think being hard on yourself is, I think it's definitely a fine line.
Yeah.
Being hard on yourself, because it could like push you over the edge in a negative way, but it also is what helps you succeed. So how are you finding the balance of like, I need to push myself really hard, but there's also times where I need to hold back. Or like, how do you think you've grown within that?
There's no balance, bro.
Yeah.
like super critical on like recently, like I did have like one of my big issues, like an over 6-figure budget, right?
Which was sick.
Thank you.
VFX work was wild.
Bro, they snapped.
Yeah,
like,
that
they
was
snapped
wild.
on that, and they were like they took direction really well, which I appreciated. But yeah, like I had like a project like that, and like I hate it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like after the fact, I'm like, yo, like we could have done this different, this different. So I think I need to find that. Like I don't think I'm there yet where like I'm kind of still in the deep end, you know. I kind of need to go to shallower waters.
Do you think you lack like appreciating the moment sometimes, or being present? Do you think that's where maybe it kind of stems from? Because I realized that about myself too, is I used to hate everything I did until I realized like, yeah, it might not be like what this DP's doing, but he's also got 15 years plus experience. But what I'm doing now, I would have like loved to have been doing last year or like 6 months ago. What I'm doing now, I would have dreamt of doing.
Yeah.
Do you find that maybe you don't appreciate the moment as much, or are you looking too much in the future? That's where it stems from?
That's where it is. I think you hit it on the nose. I do appreciate the moments, bro. When I'm on set, I have a blast. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's like, yes, like this is exactly what I want to do with my life. Comes like after the fact, I'm like, like this is not bad, but that's because I'm thinking of the future. Like this is where I want to get to. And based on this, I know I'm not there yet. So I think it stems from that. But what you just said about seeing yourself like 2 years ago, like and talking to your younger self, I'm like, yo, like I'm doing everything you wanted to do. I think having people in your corner, like huge shout out to my girlfriend, like bro, she like you look how far you've come. You know what I mean? Like 2 years ago,
She says that to you?
Yeah,
love that,
bro. Like having good people in your corner, like my girlfriend, like my best friends, having people talk to you and be like, yo, like you've become like an inspiration to your younger self in a way. So I think living with that and having those people tell me those things means a lot, you know, but it doesn't really stop what's happening inside. Right. So it's like this sort of still lack of like confidence in the work, you know, still, but that's because what you just said, I'm in the future. I'm thinking about where I want to be and where I want to get to. And I understand that still a long way to go to I'm there, you know?
I think it's like, I think once you realize that this industry is so long, like the top people are like 50, 60 years old. Yeah. They've been doing it forever. I think it maybe for me, but it puts into perspective that where I am now, like I have so much room to grow, but maybe it's just, I don't want to sound corny, but it is enjoying the process and realizing that you directing a project is a dream for so many people. So being grateful for that is, and being grateful to be able to just hold a camera in my world is, regardless of if it's a cool project, you know, shitty commercial, whatever it is, I'm just grateful to be able to hold a camera. And I think that helps me stay grounded and realize that I'm like doing the thing.
Yeah. Do you ever work with like older people and they're like, yo, how old are you? And then
every time, bro, like, that's part of the reason I started this podcast. And most of the time, I'm usually one of the younger people on set. Probably same for you as well. And we hold such leadership, high positions. Yeah. And but that's why I started this podcast, was because I was working with older people who are fathers, who are husbands, who have been in this industry for 10 plus years, and conversations that I would have with them just opened my eyes to so many different things that I wanted to be able to just create a platform to talk to people and share like their experiences. So yeah, that's why I started this.
Dope.
I was working with people that were older than me.
Shout out to them too. Like, at least the people I've come across are like super supportive. Like, yo, like, and I have the same conversation with them. Like, yo, like I'm not where I want to be, you know? And they're like, yo, you got to bask in this moment because like, one, you're so young to be doing what you're doing is amazing. But then sometimes, you know, you get stuck in your head, like, you know, you could do more and, you know, a lot of things could be different. But then having those conversations with either the OGs on set or like, you know, your partner or like your close friends really help ground you in that way to be like, yo, relax. Like you're on the right path to accomplishing what you want to accomplish because you already accomplished what you 2 years ago wanted to accomplish.
100%.
Yeah.
How long have you been with your girlfriend?
So you put me on a spot on the.
Hey, she better not listen to this. She doesn't know the answer right away.
We just had our 4-year anniversary.
Awesome.
Back in October. So yeah, we've been together.
So she's been around throughout this journey.
Yeah.
So she's seen the beginning part of you in this till where you are now. So she's seen it.
She's seen it. Yeah. She's seen like. I think we got together like. We're getting together like late 2019, and like. Just talking to her about my dreams and my aspirations, and like, I was like PAing, and she's like, "You got it!" Like even when I was PAing, like so it's dope having somebody like on your corner to like back you up in that way.
Yeah.
But what about you? Like, you don't have a girlfriend.
I have a fiance.
That's
right. Yeah. We're about to hit, today actually is 9.5 years. Today is 9.5 years.
What are you doing here?
I'm working.
Yo.
She's working too.
Okay,
no, but 9.5 years. She's also been. She's seen every. She's seen every part of me. She's seen every part of me. That's a weird thing to say. I mean, I'm not wrong, but like I meant, let me rephrase that. She's seen every part of my growth, not every part of.
Pause.
Yeah. No, but I think something along relationships that I'm curious about, and it's something that I've started to figure out lately. Honestly, maybe it's too late. It's not too late, but I figured out late was how to balance. My appreciation for her career as like a filmmaker and as a creative, we're so selfish about our thinking and like, oh, I want to succeed. I want to do this. I'm always thinking about like the next set, the next whatever, that sometimes I would forget about her career and her growth. How do you where do you stand in that, in supporting her and like trying to find the balance of that?
I think just trying to help where I can, So my girlfriend, she runs this self-care line, and I'm like, I tried my best to help, right? I was sort of like, can creative direct, and like I could help her out with shoots, like shooting product, laying out marketing campaigns, and helping her with like social and her website, and taking some of that lift off of her, and helping her, thrive in some other areas of her business. So yeah, I think just not only just that, but everything that comes with being in a relationship, right? Yeah. Listening to her, like helping her through her hardships, through her aches. I think that's I think the most important part. It's like, yeah, the business stuff is cool, it's business, but it's like, yo, like today kicked my ass. Like, and I'm able to do that because, she does way more than for me. So it's like, I don't know. I think just being there for your partner is essential. For you, though, you've made, and I think that's something I admired from our first conversation and conversation we had in the past. You're a person who commits. Like, you're a commitment maker. Like, even, like, taking on the podcast, let's do it full throttle, right? Being the DP, let's go to the max with that. I'm going to make this long life commitments to the point where you made one of the biggest commitments.
Right. And,
becoming engaged with, your now fiance. Where does that stem from you? Like, I'm able to make these are life commitments. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Specifically with her, I guess let's start on that one. She's just my best friend, man. Yeah. She's my best friend. I just can't picture my life without her. She is part of the reason I am who I am today, where I am today. I don't know what I'd be doing if she wasn't in the picture. There have been so many moments in my life where I've wanted to quit. I've wanted to stop. I wanted to just give up. And without her support and her guidance and literally just being there for me, even she doesn't have to say anything sometimes. It's just like her presence.
Like magic.
Yeah, her presence being there, I think, has really helped me just keep going and keep pushing, because I think part of the reason why I work so hard and the reason why I'm trying to do so many things like the podcast, DPing, YouTube, some other business stuff that I'm trying to do is I want to create a future for us. Like it's all for us. And I've said that to her for years now. I knew that I wanted to marry her long ago. And I knew that anything that I'd be doing from that point on isn't just for me anymore. It's for us and it's for our future. It's for our future kids. And I think that's part of why I work so hard is because I know it's not just for me anymore.
Yeah, you have a deeper sense of like purpose.
Yeah.
And stuff. You think when you were younger, have you ever lacked that sense of purpose though?
I don't know if I lacked a sense of purpose because I've always done something. I've always been doing something, but I think it's less selfish now. And I try to look more at like what would benefit us rather than what would benefit me, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I guess maybe in terms of commitment and other things, I think it goes back to what we were talking about before. My plan A is my plan B through Z on every single thing I do. And I think I have very high standards for myself too. I have, everything needs to be of a certain level. And I think it starts with, the top thing that I do is DPing. That's like the top pillar. That's what my dream is. That's my passion. And I think I do it at a decent level, a pretty high level. And I think the work that I do is pretty good. So that anything else that I do that is like kind of revolving it, because podcasting, it's in filmmaking, the YouTube, it's still in that space. Everything needs to be at that level. So I can't half-ass anything or else I feel like it starts to lose authenticity of who I truly am. And everything that I think I am is make it the best you possibly can every single time.
How do you manage that though? Like, bro, you're trying to operate at this high level for everything. How do you bounce from each thing?
I feel good. I think it energizes me. I think it doesn't stress me out. It doesn't tire me. I think if I were to do this, like what we're doing right now, like just let me go back up. If I didn't commit to doing the live podcast that I'm doing now and just stuck to the remote, it bothered me so much that I was just doing remote because it didn't feel like I was giving my all to this podcast. And I know people do remote and they're very successful, but for me, I lacked the human connection. And I felt like to be able to deliver my full self as like a host, I needed to have that human connection. So then when I committed to this, even though it's more expensive, more time consuming, it's less frequent, I think the quality is substantially better.
It's more rewarding.
It's way more rewarding. So I think for me, it's just doing things at a high level and making it the way that I really like energizes me and thinks that it just helps me feel like I'm slowly progressing. And again, I'm doing the thing, if that makes sense.
100%. But time management is kind of rough.
So time management, I will talk specifically, like I'll go in crazy detail about my Google Calendar. It is color coded. I have every detail like to the specific time, but I started that, has to be like 2 years ago. I live by my calendar.
Were you always this organized, like coming up?
I've always had a level of organization.
Okay.
I think I have like some OCD type thing. I think I lack some spontaneity sometimes, which could be a downfall in some instances because of how prepared I am for a lot of things and how structured I am. Sometimes I get a little flustered when things don't go right, or like I need to be spontaneous in certain aspects. I think I'm good in certain ways, but my strength is organization and preparation. And it only amplified when I decided to commit to like a calendar, because as a freelancer, you're your own boss in a way, and you have to create your own schedule. So I started treating my life like a 9 to 5. Like I start my day, most of the time I'm at the gym by 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm done by 7:30, 8 o'clock. And by the time I get home, I have my protein shake, food, shower. It's 9 o'clock. And then if I'm on set, everything gets thrown out the window pretty much. But if I'm working from home, I start my day at 9 o'clock. I'm at the computer, 9 o'clock. I have lunch. I walk my dog at a certain time. And then 5 o'clock comes. Usually I'm done. I'm tapped out for the day. And then I spend time with my fiance. I do other things. But I think I try to just structure my life as organized as I can and treat my life as like a 9 to 5 in a very unorganized job, or a very chaotic job that I have.
Yeah.
Jobs, plural.
I feel like I'm on the other side of that spectrum. Like I live in the dark. Like I live in, like, and I'm working towards being more organized. Yeah, I think it's outside of my nature to be as organized like that, but I'm fighting for that. I think a lot of good comes with that because it helps you be like what you said, like 100% on one thing, then 100% on another thing.
Exactly.
Knowing that like it's, for me, it's like I'm at 100% all the time on everything, which is not ideal. So oftentimes I feel like I'm a little bit too spontaneous. So I'm working towards where you're at now to sort of like have these certain moments for certain things and move forward within those. So.
I think it's also stems to like discipline.
No, 100%.
Yeah, discipline is the biggest thing. It's the hardest thing ever. And I think it relates back to, my soccer career starting back then and, not having a social life, but having the discipline to essentially work when I was a kid as like a soccer player traveling. Yeah. And then, having the discipline to look at yourself as like, I need to have structure in my life and try to figure out how I can do it. And I think what helps me also, honestly, is the gym. It's such a relief for me, and it allows me to just like, I think, be the best version of myself, honestly, because it lets go a lot of my anxiety. Because I don't know about you, but I get anxious about this job all the time, man.
Anxious in what way though? Like
that I'm not going to succeed. That yeah.
that
I'm a failure. That I'm going to fail. Everyone's surpassing me. I think comparison is like the biggest thing I deal with as well. Yeah. And it's horrible because like, I see people. I talk to people. They're like, "Oh, I love what you're doing. I wish I was doing what you're doing." And then that helps you, come back and bring you back. But then 5 minutes later, you're scrolling on Instagram. And you're like, dang, this dude just worked on some crazy ass set right now. So I don't know. How do you kind of work through comparison? And because I know I'm sure you obviously probably deal with it as well, and the anxiety too. Of
course, it's really hard for me, I think, and it goes to what we talked about earlier, just thinking about the future, right? It's like, damn, what I often did, and I kind of like a little bit embarrassed to say this, but like. Often what I did was like, yo, this dude, so say if I'm scrolling, right? And like, I see somebody's work that I'm like, yo, this thing is fire. Or I used to Google directors. I'm like, yo, like, how old were they when they made this? And then like, if they were younger than me, I'm like, fuck, like, it's over. You know what I mean? Like, I lost my chance. So it was kind of hard for me coming up where it's like, damn, I started looking at the age thing.
Like, how old are you? You're 24?
I just turned 25 yesterday. 25? So
we're the same age.
Yeah. 98?
98.
What a year.
Let's get it.
But no, yeah, I used to look at people's ages and kind of determine how I was doing in my own life, where it's more so like, you come to understand it's like a spectrum, right? Like everybody's plan is sort of like destined for them already. Like you just need to work towards that. And it may take longer for other people than, it may take longer for me than other people. And it's kind of like telling yourself that instead of like crying yourself to sleep. You know what I mean? Bro, it's like, I don't know. Like you look at other people's work and it's like, fuck, like that shit was dope. Like how did they think of that? And then you look at your own work, it's like, I guess, but what you said about other people coming up to you, it's like, it helps. But I think for me, it's like, I don't know, there's this thing within myself, like, it's like, you're lying to me. You know what I mean? Like, you're not really, like, how can you think this is good, when I know everything wrong with it? I don't know. I think it's a constant battle that, you will constantly need to face as you mature and as you become more confident in the work that you do. But Yeah, I mean, I think it just is what it is, you know, and that's it's another obstacle that you just have to overcome. Whenever that comes, hopefully soon for me. But yeah, I don't know. It's just something that you need to overcome as time goes on, for sure.
I think something I also, because I'm pretty business minded. I know that you are as well.
Yeah,
And there comes like a certain level of like money is like a big thing in this industry, and I there's always that thing of like artists sometimes they don't care about business, they don't care about money, but for me, I almost think I'm like more business than an artist sometimes, and maybe sort of like sometimes my comparison or like sometimes my anxiety is like, oh, I'm not where I want to be financially yet, or I'm not where I want to be. Not even so like the art side. I think it is like business too is part of the anxiety as well. Do you also feel something similar where it's not just like the art, but like business or like financially, where you wish you were somewhere like, I guess the
yeah,
comparison of like business and money. Yeah.
all the time. I mean, I think I've been fortunate enough to be like in rooms with people who are super successful. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's like, damn, like I'm not so comparing myself to them, but it's more so like I know I can get there too. Like, you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
like my time will come at some point. And it's a little bit motivating and a little bit inspiring to see that other people are, you know, where you want to be, because you know it's obtainable.
Right. I love that. Yeah.
But I'm kind of on the other side of what you said though. Like you look at your not so much of the art side, but more so the business side, not where you're at. I look at the art side, I'm like, damn, like oftentimes with the work that I do now, it's super rewarding in the sense like the work I do at Snipes, but I think deep down inside it's not as like fulfilling as it needed to be, because it's for somebody else or for something
Right.
else. No matter how much like I love the project that I worked on, right, and no matter how much of myself I put into it, it's not like this narrative that I came up with. It's not like a short. It's not like a feature. And I think because that's where I want to be, it won't be as fulfilling as when I do that.
Right.
And I'm sure when I do it, it's gonna be obstacles when it comes when I get there as well. So yeah, I think I look at the art side more so as it's like, damn, like I'm not where I want to be artistically. I think, and it goes back to like this I don't know, this faith that I have where I'm gonna be all right. You know what I mean?
That
Like
hyper confidence.
yeah, like where I'm just faking it or lying to myself, but I just tell myself like business wise, like or financially, I'll be okay at some point if I keep pushing
Right. Right.
the art forward in that way. But I think I've been really focused on the business side, you know, before, where I think I need to switch gears a bit and kind of dive back deep into the art.
I feel pretty similarly. I think some of my business like questions and like fears stem from being now or soon to be married, you know, going to have a family eventually. Am I going to be able to support? Like, I think that's always a fear that I have. But I agree. I thought about this a lot the past couple months of how much more do I need to be focusing on the art side compared to the business side? Because both are equally as important, but where do I find my level of balance is in the art versus business?
Yeah.
And I realized that I was lacking in the art side. And maybe I was doing jobs just for money and like, you know, everyone does, I think, but I wanted to, guys bumping.
North Philly for you.
Right. He's just vibing,
He's
right?
parked
Yeah,
up.
he's
like,
just vibing.
Nah, there he goes. Shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out to that guy. No, but to sum it up, I realized that I needed to start focusing more on the art a little bit more. And I think fortunately in the past couple of months, I've been able to do a lot of really fulfilling projects. And I've realized that as I'm doing those, I feel such a great sense of like satisfaction and like purpose.
Yeah.
When you're really trying to pursue your art, your passion.
Just came off a feature.
Yeah.
Bro, how was that?
How was that?
Bro, how was that?
It's great. It's still going. Like, I leave tomorrow for St. Louis for a premiere.
Yeah.
Which is pretty sweet.
Was that your first?
It was my first feature.
Was it, because I know we talked in the past, that's kind of where, you're heading in that direction to shoot more feature stuff. Was that what you envisioned it to be?
Was it how I envisioned my first feature to turn out? No. Not even close. Not even in the slightest. I have this experience for a feature is unlike, I think, most people's experiences working on their first feature. I think I came into such a rare thing, especially like the end product is such a really good movie. It's like, it's a movie that I want people to see. And it's not something that you'll go to a movie to watch your friend's feature and you're like, cringy. Yeah. It's not a cringe. Like, it's a legit fucking movie.
Yeah, it's a movie.
It's crazy. And the publicity behind it, the attention behind it, the awards are right. I think we got accepted into like 6 festivals already. We've won awards, and I just, it's a wild first experience. And since then I've turned down 5 or 6 features.
Wow. Did you ever say that? I would turn down a feature.
I never even thought I'd be shooting features. No, I never had I would love to. I just didn't think that was, I thought it took 10, 15 years to get there. But I just realized that it just didn't align with who I am, what I want to do. And I think my expectations after this feature are a lot higher now. So I'm more willing to say no to features, honestly, until the right one comes along.
Wow.
But I'm doing more shorts now. I got my first European short. So I'm shooting in Belgium and France. So I've been to Europe? I've been to Europe. Okay. I've never shot in Europe. But I'm just really excited to be getting these more story-based opportunities. And even though they don't pay well, I think this is me rebalancing the scale of like, this is me pursuing my art. Yeah.
It's the passion that I think is needed to, continue on in the industry. That's dope. I saw the film, by the way.
Did you? Good shit. Which one did you go to?
The Philly. I came.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was I there?
No, you weren't.
Oh, you went to the festival?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was good. You liked it?
Right. I loved it. Yeah, I took my girl. It was her first time being like in this festival environment. Right. So like things are a little bit different, Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think it's always like I say this to her all the time, but after like leaving school and leaving college, I kind of yearn for like that film. Like that film camaraderie, like I went to film school. Everybody's just talking about film, all the time. So it's like, I kind of miss that, like I came and it's more so about commercials and like selling products and stuff. You kind of lose the joy that comes with like, just like storytelling, like it's not often in my day-to-day life that I get to see more, be surrounded by people who love film movies, So it was dope. It was a dope experience. And not even the movie was dope, and just being around other people.
I wish I was there.
That was cool. Yeah. There was yelling and stuff in there. Like, I think some of Danny's homies was there, and like,
because it's Philly based. Like,
So like a lot of people that knew Danny were there, and they were like, "Yo, shout out Danny!" Da, da, da. And like, I don't know the man, but I'm like, "Yo, I'm proud of that dude." You know what I mean? So it's like, I think seeing him there kind of like ignites something within myself. Like, yo, like this is it. Like, when I was there, I was like, yo, this is it. Like, this is my people. I think that sort of reignited something within me where it's like, yo, like you should get back to this, And
I love that.
Yeah, so I think that did a lot for me. The film was great, but just in that environment, it did a lot for me. Yeah.
Cool. I got 2 last questions for you. First one is, what was your perception of success when you were younger? And what is your perception of success now?
That's a good question. I think very young, my father instilled in me that success means happiness. So it's not about finances. It's not about like anything external. It's more about if you're happy with who you are and the position in life that you are, then you're successful. And I think I've kind of stayed true to that till now. I think as long as I'm happy, long terms, and me being happiness, like my girlfriend is healthy, my parents are healthy, everybody around me is healthy. They're taken care of in that way. Then I think that's happy. That's happiness. Like me going out and like working on a passion project, working on that. That's happiness. Like having the luxury to do that is happiness, which then means that I'm sort of successful.
Right.
And I think now, while that still holds true, there's a lot of like different elements to that round, right? So it's like obviously there's always another level you want to reach to, but I think him having instilled that within me at a very young age helps to ground me. Where it's like, all right, like just think about what you have, and understand that you're in a better position than not only than you were, but then a lot of people are around you. So I think being able to like reel myself in and see that all right, am I okay this moment? And even to this day, like I go over and he's like, yo, like you good? You happy in life? And I'm like, I am. I think things could be better, but things could be 1,000 times worse. So
Right. Absolutely.
you gotta think to yourself like, all right, cool. Like all in all, I am pretty happy right now. So I think all in all, I am pretty successful. Not to say that there's not other things I want to accomplish in life, but yeah, I think I measure success by moments of happiness. I think as many moments of happiness I have or I can gain is how successful I am.
Love that. That's a great answer. My last question is a question I ask everybody at the end is, you're sitting there, that younger version of you is sitting here, film school, or telling your dad that you're going to become a filmmaker, photographer. What advice would you give that younger version of you to where you are now?
I don't know. That's tough.
Yeah, it's not an easy one.
It's like a tough question. It's like, I don't know how much time we have, but I think I kind of that question reminds me of something that happened to me in school where I was like this close to like dropping out and like quitting film, and I just made my first short, and it's like anything you do, like, oh my god, this shit sucks. I hate it so much. And there were some upperclassmen I was cool with at the time, who was like, yo, come over, have a couple of drinks and like play the game and chill, right? They were all in film, right? So I went there, chilled before like my basketball game, and they were like, yo, Raj, you just made your first short, right? Let's put it on. I'm like, hell no. Like, think about it. Like, these are like your upperclassmen, right? These are like people, juniors and maybe a senior, like are about to graduate, and I'm like a freshman or I think a sophomore at the time.
It's intimidating.
Bro, what? It's like super intimidating.
Right.
They're like, yo, these guys know way more than me. They're gonna laugh at my film. They're gonna like do this and that. So I'm just like really self-conscious about what I made, understanding that it's not the best thing it could be. So whatever, they peer pressured me to showing them the film. I put it on. We're all watching it. The whole time I'm like, oh my God, bro, like, what am I doing? And I'll never forget, like, this is kind of one of like the key moments in like my filmmaking journey and like what's kept me here for so long. I'll never forget. It's Liam. It was me, Liam Murphy, Simeon Poole, and John Amigo, who were all upperclassmen at the time, who are still working in film now. They were like, the movie ended. I'm like, all right, fuck. Like, what are they gonna say? Like, they're about to tear this shit apart, which like is cool. Like, I'm open to criticism. And bro, they sat me down and were like, yo, like, you got it. Like, what you made here it was a beautiful piece. Like, you were able to convey an important message, and I felt it. Like, we all felt it in the room, and whatever you think you got going on, like, you have it, whatever it is, like, you got it. Like, you can go far with this. And I just broke down in front of like 3 grown men. I just started bawling my eyes out because it was so much of like a pivotal point. Because I was like this close to like saying like, yo, fuck this. Like I'm never gonna And I think a lot of it had to do with how much I was in my head. But him saying that, it was like, yo, like what? Like, you really think? He's like, yeah, like, this is good. I just started like bawling my eyes out. It was so embarrassing. But he was like, yo, like, it's all good, you know? I just never had like somebody, because when you first come in school and you kind of look up to your upperclassmen, right?
Yeah.
For them to say like, yo, for them being people who I admire their work, them to say like, yo, like, you got it, you know? Like, this gift of like storytelling you have was something really pivotal in my life. So I don't think if I were to tell my younger self something, is that same thing that they told me. It's like, yo, like, just keep going. I think as hard as it is now, it gets better, and it'll get hard again, but it'll get better again. And I'll tell that person the same thing that, you know, they tell me, which is like, don't be too hard on yourself, and you know, you got it. So just keep pushing with that, I think I would say. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
Thanks for that story.
Yeah. It was the first time I ever said it. Like,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel honored.
Oh, breaking news.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you, dude, for coming on. I really appreciate it. Where can people find you? Your Instagram, website, whatever.
Yeah. My Instagram is Roger Castle. My website is rogcas, ROGCAS.com. The agency's page is Guarida on Instagram, GUARIDA. And yeah, shoot me a message. Let's go for coffee or whatever. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully you have a great day. See you next time. Peace out. So that's a wrap on today's episode. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation with our guest. And as I mentioned in the intro, if you enjoy the podcast, you enjoyed today's episode, leave a rating on whatever podcast platform you're using, share it with a friend, share and tag us on Instagram @CreativeGap. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. So I'm going to leave you with some nice calming music to wrap up today's episode. Enjoy the rest of your week. I will see you next time. Peace out.